Hey, I'm Nick. I want to show you what I actually believe is happening underneath your performance. I think one of the biggest lies in cricket is that the player with the best technique performs the best. That is such a big lie because every week I watch players who look unbelievable in the nets but become completely different cricketers on game day. Same bat, same bowling action, same technique, same players, but different performance outcomes because of this up here. And if that's you, I want you to know something. You're probably not imagining it. You're probably not lazy, and you might not even have the problem you think you have. You see, talent and skill are rarely the problem. Accessing them under pressure is the real problem, and that's always been the one. Else, every cricketer would perform every game to the best of their ability, but they cannot. Whenever I ask players that question, the answer is almost always the same. They don't know. I just couldn't execute. I wasn't myself. I don't remember. I made a foolish mistake, etc. And I believe them because if nobody has ever explained what's happening, how would you know? I hate those questions because I've asked it myself. I was 15, playing a selection game in Pune, India. I'd been looking forward to it for weeks and weeks, no end. This was my chance. I walked out to bat, and almost immediately there was this conversation running through my mind. Don't get out cheaply. Don't waste this. Don't mess this up. Think about the money that the parents have invested. And that was just running over and over and over again, like a bloody loop. Looking back at it now, how not once did I think about watching the ball, about competing, or the hours that I'd spent in training leading up to that game. My entire focus had shifted to one thing, which was just pure survival. And eventually, I got out. I actually wasn't selected. For years, I thought that day said something about my ability. Maybe I just wasn't talented enough. Maybe someone else had something I did not. Maybe this was my level. And that story stayed with me for a long, long time until eventually something stopped making sense. Because if my technique was actually the problem, why was I one player in training and someone completely different on game day? The technique didn't magically disappear, so something else had to be happening. So I started studying high performance psychology, decision making, attentional control, pressure, behavior, motor learning, neuro linguistic programming, you name it, and I studied that. By the time I worked with 50 players and I had 50 data points, I was seeing the same things over and over and over again. And then by the time I've worked with a few hundred more, I wasn't guessing anymore. I realized that pressure isn't random. Pressure follows patterns. And if it follows patterns, you can measure it. And if you can measure it, you can understand it. And if you can understand it, you can train it. And that changed everything for me because it meant players didn't need another motivational speech. They didn't need someone to tell them, back yourself, trust yourself, it will happen. They just needed somebody to show them what was actually happening up here. And that's exactly what I want to show you next, because once you see this, as a cricketer, for a cricketer, you will never look at your own game exactly the same way again. So to be the best cricketer you can be, this is how I think about it, and this is how I want you to think about this from now on as well. So let me just draw this. Fundamentally, right in the middle of this triangle, your goal is to play at your best under pressure every game, or to play at your best under pressure consistently, full stop. Like, you don't really play cricket for anything else. You play cricket because you want to play at your best every game consistently. Now, there are three specific problems that stop you from playing at your best under pressure. The first one is your nets game, you can't transfer that onto game day consistently. Because whatever you do in the nets, if you were able to transfer that onto game day consistently, then obviously you would play at your best every game. But right now, you obviously can't. So that's problem number one. Problem number two is you overthink in some shape or form. Now, this might be before a game, during a game, after a game. Because the overthinking loop is anchored on performance, every time the performance is great, you are in a fantastic headspace. Every time the performance isn't, there is an overthinking cycle that comes back again. What we want to change that overthinking cycle to is you want to be calm, composed, and in the zone. Those are the things that we want you to change to, from overthinking to calm, composed, and in the zone. Now, in the presence of your nets game not transferring onto game day, in the presence of overthinking everything, leading up to the game, on game day, when you play, and after game day when you've had a subpar performance, there is a level of worry about you and your potential. So problem number 3 is you worrying about your potential. Think about it. In the presence of your Nets game not transferring onto game day, that leads you to overthink. Therefore, there is a state where you consistently worry if you're ever going to meet your potential, and that's problem number 3. So where we want to go is from worrying about potential, we want to step into unlocking your potential and progressing confidently to the next level. That is the third problem. So let me just rephrase all of that in 30 seconds. We want you to play at your best consistently every game. And there are 3 problems. You can't transfer your Nets game or to game day. You can't stop overthinking, and then therefore you worry about your potential. But those are at a fundamental level 3 problems. Doesn't matter if you are an emerging and aspiring pro, if you are here, if you are there, or if you're already pro. Fundamentally, those are the 3 problems. And this is how I do it, and this is how I've designed the entire system. So to transfer your Nets onto game day, we use the pressure simulation protocol, the pressure release framework, and the 24-ball training system. These are the 3 components that help you transfer your Nets game to game day on a consistent basis, full stop. And we've got data from about 165 cricketers only in the past 12 months who've done that on a consistent basis. Then let's come to problem number 2, overthinking. The way we stop you overthinking and move you from overthinking to calm, composed, and being in the zone is, again, using 3 things. 3 proprietary frameworks that I've designed: the 7-minute flow method, the fear framework, and then the performance architect. These are the 3 frameworks that help you go from overthinking to calm, composed, and being in the zone on a consistent basis. And this caters to your week leading up to the game, on game day, during the game, and after the game as well. It covers all of that. Then comes the last problem. It is worrying about your potential. Where we want to get to is unlocking your potential and for you to progress confidently. The way we do that is using the runs and wickets framework, the game day system, and the trigger tracker. These 3 proprietary frameworks help you from consistently thinking about, am I going to make it? Am I going to go to the next level? Am I going to get the contract? Am I actually good enough to be at this level? All of those worries that you have about your potential are then unlocked so that you can progress to whatever that next level is for you. And together, this is what I have patented, and I've called it the Pro Performance Framework. This is exactly how you start performing consistently, play at your best every game. So the next obvious question that I get asked is, hey Nick, great, I understand the system, I understand how you structure everything, I understand your model, that's fantastic. Tell me, how does this work on a day in, day out basis with you? How does the program work? This is how the program works. So day 0 is when you sign up, and your first game plan call is within the first 7 days. But before we book that in, there are 3 things that I need you to do. First is fill in the vision document. The second is fill in the MPI. And the third is watch the onboarding video. The vision document is nothing but helps me understand the holistic problems across your game. It is something that I have designed that you have access to. All you need to do is just fill it in. The MPI is the mental performance index that we measure at the start, 6 weeks, and 12 weeks. And that essentially becomes your progress scale that helps you understand how far you've come from day 0 to then week 6 and then week 12. That's how we measure your progress. And the onboarding video is just that you can orient yourself and be excited to do this work. So that is what happens between day 0 and day 7. Day 7 is when your first game plan call is. Now think about the game plan call as a strategy call to set up your entire performance end to end, because I use what I have seen from the MPI and the vision doc to structure the conversation for our game plan call. That game plan call is of primary importance, and that is what sets up your roadmap, your performance roadmap for the rest of your time inside the program and after that as well. This is how that game plan call is how I structure everything, and you start seeing the cracks in your own game. After the game plan call, I'll tell you your right next thing. And in 2 weeks, we'll have a fortnightly review. In between that, after the first game plan call and before the fortnightly review, I ask you to complete the pressure simulation protocol. Remember the triangle that I just drew? where I spoke about nets to game day, and then pressure simulation protocol was one of those things that you needed to understand and finish. That's what I get you to do. Because unless you understand how pressure affects you, you're not going to be able to perform at your best. Then we step into your fortnightly review. That fortnightly review is more of a fine tuning to make sure that you are on the right path. And this is what I mean when I say right path. Your trajectory is always on the up. That is what this program is designed for, so that your trajectory is always on the up. You never actually go down. After your fortnightly review is your second game plan call. And in between that, I ask you to complete the fear and the flow section of the Pro Performance Framework. Because by that time, you would have understood how pressure affects you. And we need to step into understanding what are some of your fears that stop you from performing to the best of your ability. That's where the fear and the flow frameworks come into the picture. At the end of the second game plan is essentially the end of month 1 in the program. At the end of month 1, this is where you can review if this program is for you over the longer term or not. If it is, great, we keep on doing the work, and remember the other parts of the triangle, that's what we solve, so that we can ensure that you can perform at your best every time. If you get to month 1 and if this is not for you, then just let me know, we can have a conversation, and you can leave, because I don't want people inside the program that are not committed, that aren't the right fit. I would rather work with a handful as opposed to working with 200. So that is how the program is structured. That is how your first month works. And then we just go into a repeatable cycle for every month after that. This is how it works. This is how we build consistent performance. The first 4 weeks are all about the foundation. And from there on, we actually start building on your foundation, which I call the build and the execute phase. So now you might ask, does this actually work, Nick? That's the only question that really matters, isn't it? Don't take my word for it. Have a look on here on YouTube, or just type @Nick Badkundri on YouTube and have a look for yourself. Or just head to properformanceproject.com. You'll see how it works and you'll know it does. So the next logical question is Project 228 and the mental performance program actually for you? It is for the players who care, the players who know they're already doing the work, the players whose coach knows the ability is already there. Maybe you're playing Premier Cricket, maybe you're in the pathway, maybe you're chasing state cricket, or you're trying to break to the next level. The program is built for exactly that for you. But if you're already a pro contracted cricketer, stop this video right here and book a call using the link below. I work with you differently than how I would work with an emerging or an aspiring pro cricketer. If you aren't a pro cricketer, keep watching. If you are the parent and if you're watching your child work incredibly hard, but knowing there's another gear, but not knowing how to unlock it, this is also who this is for. Doesn't matter if you are 13 or 30. If you're chasing a dream and wanting to unlock that next level in your cricket, that's who this is for. If you watch this far, you are here to answer one question. Why can't I play the way I know I can? Or maybe you're the parent who's driven home after another game trying to say the right thing. You know your son or your daughter has the ability and works hard, but just can't perform consistently. I built this program exactly for you because I wish someone had built it for me. I keep coming back to that 15-year-old kid in Pune. I can still picture him walking out to bat, trying so hard to impress everyone, trying so hard not to fail, thinking that one innings was going to define whether he was actually good enough, whether he was worthy. And when I got out that day, I thought I had learned something about my talent. I hadn't. I had simply experienced pressure. And without understanding what that did to me, and because nobody could explain it, I blamed myself. Pressure doesn't take away your talent or your skill. It just changes how you access it. What I do promise is that you'll understand your game at a level you probably have never before. You'll know what pressure does to you. You'll know where your pattern starts. You'll know how to respond when in it. And instead of hoping you play well, you'll walk onto the field with a process you trust that helps you access your best game and helps you compete from it. Click the button below, fill the application, tell me about yourself, about your cricket. Every application comes directly to me and I read each and every one of them personally. If I genuinely believe I can help, we'll take the next step together. If I don't, I'll tell you, I would rather have the right players inside the program than have 200 players. That's just not my style. My goal with the program and Project 228 is very simple: to help talented cricketers unlock the next level in their game and get them on the pathway to becoming pro, to help them stop confusing pressure with lack of ability, talent, or skill, to help them trust themselves again, to help them compete freely, and lastly, to ensure that the player that everyone sees at training is the same player who walks out into the middle when the game is on the line. Because that's the player your teammates trust, that's the player selectors remember, and that's the player you've always known was in here. If you're ready to become that player more consistently, I would love to help. Click the button below, apply, let's get to work. I'll see you inside.